Hey, how's it going everybody? It's Tanner here, and welcome to a new Ninjago video here on the channel. In today's video, we're going to be discussing some elemental powers that aren't technically elemental powers. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, how can elemental powers not be elemental powers? Well, there is such a thing in Ninjago, throughout all of Ninjago's lore, as an elemental essence. Now, elemental essences, if you will, are a little bit different than elemental powers. The following elements are pretty much described as being elemental essences. We have ourselves golden power. Energy on top of that. We have destruction, creation, and darkness. Golden power and energy obviously come from Lloyd and the first Spinjitzu Master. Creation and destruction are both represented by Wu and Garmadon respectively, and darkness comes from the Overlord. That's basically his elemental power, if you want to call it that. But again, these aren't really powers as much as they are elemental essences. So what's the difference between an elemental power and an elemental essence? Elemental powers are very much physical. Stuff like fire, lightning, earth, and ice are obvious, but other elements kind of fall into this category as well. Things like water, metal, nature, time. A lot of these things kind of bend physical aspects of reality as we know it, but ultimately it does come down to physical properties, and a lot of main elemental powers do this. Elemental essences, on the other hand, usually come from the first Spinjitzu Master, or at least are attached to that lore in that way, maybe circled around that exact family. Things like golden power make sense that it's not technically a power because it literally is the power of the first Spinjitzu Master, so it can't be put into the same category as something like fire or lightning. Makes sense to me. Energy is a little bit of a weird concept because, again, it was listed as an elemental power technically in the Tournament of Elements, but it is also a lesser form of golden power, meaning it doesn't really fall in line with the more traditional elemental powers, if that makes sense. Creation and destruction makes a little bit more sense because, again, they are, I guess, the powers of Wu and Garmadon, which are descendants of the first Spinjitzu Master. So it makes sense that that whole family is kind of tied together. In terms of darkness, darkness is kind of a weird take as well because darkness isn't really a specific element as much as it is just the power of the Overlord. So it can't be classed as an elemental power, so it fits within the elemental essence canon. In the show, they really don't explain the differences between elemental powers and elemental essences. For a lot of scenarios, they are pretty much one and the same. So I can understand why some people might have been a little confused over the concept of elemental essences, but ultimately it just comes down to a behind the scenes aspect. Various creators and writers of Ninjago have come out and said that the elemental essences are exactly that, just essences, not powers. Again, the elemental powers take up more of a physical form, and while a lot of them do come from the first Spinjitzu Master, they're not directly powers from that family, if that makes sense. Stuff like creation and destruction is very different from things, again, like earth or fire, and that's basically all that it comes down to. Physical versus spiritual. Elemental essences are more spiritual, while elemental powers are more physical, if that makes sense. So I hope I was able to explain the difference between elemental powers and elemental essences in this video. I understand that it might have been a little confusing, but hopefully I was able to explain it well, and the main elemental essences, again, are golden power, energy, creation, destruction, and darkness. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up for my thoughts in today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and check out the links down below in the description for my other forms of social media. As always, big shout out goes out to my Patreon supporters, including once again the marvelous Jan. Thank you guys so much for watching this video once again. My name is TannerFishies, and with that I bid you farewell.